Hey everybody! And while there's still some light left in the sky, and about an hour left to record this video, today I want to talk about arguing. So I was talking to a friend the other day, and he was talking about how much he loves to piss people off. He said he likes to piss off people he disagrees with. And not by putting itching powder in their underwear, but actually making arguments. It's a sport to him. Pissing people off by making good arguments, which, is fun. So it's hard for me to judge. But here's the thing I've noticed. When you piss people off who you're trying to argue with, they tend to hate you. See, if we're in an argument and you start to piss me off, I'm just gonna stop listening. But then he started reminiscing about being on debate teams in school. Now, I don't know if you know about debate teams. Debate teams are kind of cool. First you get a proposition, like abortion should be legal for all women. And then one team argues that it's true, and the other team argues that it's false. And then a judge listens to both arguments and makes a ruling. But the tricky thing here is you may be arguing a point that you don't agree with. And in truth, that's a useful exercise. I mean, you get to think on your feet, you get to try to make an argument that you're not used to, and maybe it means you see something from someone else's point of view, which is kind of cool. But the whole point is to stick to your argument. If you give up your argument, you've lost. Because in a debate, you've got two teams, or two people, arguing against each other to a judge. But that's not really what happens in real life, right? There aren't judges. I mean, occasionally there are. Sometimes you're arguing a point to a committee or to a boss. But most of the time, we're just talking to each other. And when we talk to each other, we're not just trying to make the best argument for some abstract point that we represent. We're actually trying to come up with the best answer. Should abortions be illegal for all women? We need to figure that out eventually. But if all you have is two people yelling at each other with the goal simply of making the other person agree with them and never giving up anything, you're just gonna have two people yelling at each other forever, which is kind of how American politics works right now. In fact, it's how all politics works. When have you ever heard a politician say, "Oh, I was wrong. You're right"? We don't see that from politicians, and frankly, we may never will, because, in a sense, they are representing a position that exists outside themselves, much like lawyers do. But when we're just talking between people, it needs to be okay for us to change our minds. It's not weak to change your mind. It's not weak of you to change your opinion. If I decide one day that I think that women shouldn't be allowed to have abortions because someone makes a really good point, that needs to be okay. I don't think it's likely to happen, but I'm open to the possibility. Bob Sutton calls this strong opinions weakly held. Link in the sidebar. And it's a really powerful idea. I am blessed to be able to work with a bunch of people who have this very trait. Strong opinions, weakly held. At work, we have lots of arguments about how to do things. And we have very strong opinions about how to do it. But if someone makes a good argument, we listen. And that's really cool. Didn't this guy just talk about listening last week? So here's my point in all this. We teach debate in school, right? And it's fun, it's cool, and it's useful. But do we ever teach agreement? I don't think we do. Isn't that much more useful? To learn how to not just make a point, but hear a point and understand a point and agree with a point? So that's my question for you. Leave an answer in the comments if you got one. Why don't we teach our kids, our adults, how to agree with each other once in a while? I'll see you next week.